Welcome to the Women Retreat. Today we'll be talking about taking the time to wind down. It just reminds me, like, in this life, we get so busy with everything that is going on. We get busy with work. We get busy with taking care of our kids, taking care of our husband. We get busy with businesses and working in the purpose or the gift that God called you to. And we forget to actually take that time to wind down, to actually slow down, because life is always going. And we never had a time to actually say, I'm going to slow down and have time for myself, or to have time to go into a secret place with God, our Maker. And the thing that I admire about Jesus, even though life was so busy for him, he was delivering people, he was preaching the gospel, but he still had time to go in a silent place, a secluded place, and talk to God the Maker. You know the reason that Jesus did that? So he can be more empowered to go and do the things that God had called him to do. So he wouldn't be overwhelmed or burned out. Because at times we forget the purpose of what God told us to go and do, because we are so overwhelmed by everything. And then at times we don't find joy into the things that God called us to do, because at times we get burned out and we don't want to do it anymore. And then we question, is this really what God wants for me? Is this really what God told me to do? Yes, it is what God called you to do. But because you are so overwhelmed, because you don't have time for yourself and you burn out, you second guessing, you questioning if this is what God has really had for you. But if you go and have that silence time with God, silence time, and meditate, you will even be more empowered to go out and pour into people, and go out and do the purpose and the gifting that God has for you. And that's what Jesus was not overwhelmed. Even with everything that was going on, he found a time, even if it's early in the morning, he walked away and talked to God and meditate. Even if it's with so many crowd, he ran out and go and talk to God. And after talking to God, he was impacted to go and pour more into people, and go and deliver more people, and go and do the things that God called him to do. And he told himself, I am ready to do the work of God. After he had that silent time with God. So at times we get so overwhelmed by everything, we forget the mission, the purpose, the things that God has called us to do. At times we get overwhelmed and we forget the things that we are meant to do in our life. But if you had that time with God, if you go in your secret place, you will know what God had told you. And then when you go out, you'll be able to pour into more people and do more things that God called you to. I don't know what the silence place is like for you. Maybe when the kids go to sleep, that is your silence place, where you can actually sit on your bed, get a caramel tea, sit on your bed and read the Word of God. And meditate on the Word of God and journal. Maybe that's your silence place. Maybe your silence place look like going in the bathtub, putting candles, worshiping, putting on your gospel music, and just soaking yourself and meditating on your day and meditating on what God told you to do. Maybe your silence place is having an extra room in your house, where when everything is overwhelmed, you can sleep in your silence place, lock the door, and worship and pray. That's one of the biggest things I want to do in the future. I want a separate room for where I can go and worship. That can be my silence place, that I can talk to God. When everything is overwhelmed, I can go and talk to him. Maybe that can be my silence place. I don't know how your silence place look like, but having that time with God is very detrimental, because he is your maker, he is your GPS, he is your creator. He knows what he put in you, he knows what he has for you. He is the CEO of that business, he is the creator of that business. And when you go in that silence place with God, he will be able to pour more into you, that when you walk in that business, when you walk in your purpose, you will be able to do more in that business. You will be able to do more in your purpose and more in your gifting. But if you don't, you will be overwhelmed. You will be burned out, and you won't have time for yourself. And then you will start second guessing. If this is what God have for me, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much. Because you are overwhelmed. Because you are burned out. But if you take that time for you and God, your maker, you will go deeper into your purpose. You won't be burned out. And if you are burned out, you will know I'm going back to my silence place. So I can be able to juvenize myself and go to do the things that God had told me to do. That's what Jesus was always so powerful in his gift. Was always doing greater things in his purpose. Because he went back and had a silence time with God. And God was able to pour more into him. That when he go out, he can be able to pour more into people. But if you are overwhelmed, one of the saying is, you cannot pour into an empty cup. Meaning, I don't know if that's the saying. If I'm mistaken, please let me know. But I know it's mean that even you cannot pour into somebody when you are empty within. You cannot. I cannot pour into you when I don't have nothing left in me. But I can only pour into you when I have enough. If you have that silence place with God, Jesus could only pour into other people because he had enough for himself. But he couldn't if he didn't have nothing. And that's the same thing with us. We cannot pour into people if we don't have nothing to pour into people with. It doesn't work like that. So go, have the silence place with God. Have the silence place with your maker so you can be able to come through and pour into other people.